Okay, we're into our last 30 minutes. Hang in there, you all. All right, next question. Home rule seems to be a consistent issue brought up in local government discussions. Over time, it appears that people have changed their mind on how to respond to this. What are the key issues that need to be in place for this to be a wise move for the town of Erie to make for its future? Justin, I believe we start with you.
Okay, this looks like a leading question, but I'll try my best with it. So home rule is a major transition of government. That is true. However, it is something that is very commonplace across the state of Colorado. 93% of Coloradans live in a home rule municipality. We are a statutory town. There is a judicial process that you go through to make the transition from statutory to home rule. It is led by the voters. The charter is written by commissioners that are elected, not the current elected officials. They're new elected commissioners that you would elect as voters that would lead us through that transition. The city of Eagle, Colorado, has a very informative website that kind of shows the path to home rule. And I think that one of the major things we would need to do is to increase awareness of what that process looks like, what it'll take, and continue to be transparent as we have been with what that transition would mean to our voters.
To me, the key thing that needs to be in place is the Home Rule Charter Commission. So let me use this time to ask anybody and everybody that's listening, if you consider yourself an informed, engaged resident that cares about Erie, please consider applying for the Home Rule Charter Commission. It's going to be between 9 and 20 Erie residents who will hash it out over a period of 12 months and come up with a home rule charter based on the charters from Monument and Eagle and the city of Loveland, and embrace what makes Erie unique and allow us to take the things that have already worked in other municipalities, use them as a bedrock, and to celebrate what it is that we want Erie to be for its future.
So I have been extremely vocal about home rule, and it actually goes along the lines of this question. The one biggest thing that needs to be really brought back to town hall is trust. We just got through a question about the trust, openness, the transparency. Trust was the #1 reason why individuals opposed home rule. Trust of the actual elected officials, as well as trust of the community members for the #1 reason why people were unsure on whether home rule would be good or bad for the community. There's a number of things that the town has to do to get ready for home rule. Home rule is meant for municipalities that have exceeded their already currently provided statutory abilities. Not just because we are at 32,000, not just because we are at the largest statutory municipality in the state, but because we need that as our next form, because we need to get stuff done, and I don't see that having been done yet.
Home rule is a form of government that gives power back to residents by enabling residents, empowering them to write our charter and really prioritize what's important to Erie. It's important for balanced growth and sustainable budget moving forward. And I think it begins with, that really important educational outreach to make sure that our residents feel like they understand what the home rule process is, that the whole thing is transparent. And so then the next step will be that it goes to voters. Do you want to go to home rule? I think that educational piece on the front end is really important so that you can make an informed decision at the ballot in November. Should the voters decide that we should become a home rule and accept that charter, then it is paramount that the Board of Trustees is supporting town staff so that we can mature into that growth, so that there are the additional staff that the town would need to be a home rule municipality. That's so important.
The number one issue for going to home rule is education and helping the townspeople understand exactly what's involved. I'm not going to sit up here and preach about why I may or may not think we should go to home rule, or why. I have been on the fence about it and changed my mind over time. I do agree that trust is the issue. The Board of Trustees needs to trust its residents, who are very intelligent, very well educated, to educate themselves on what home rule is and what it is not, and allow them to vote for their future. It's not a power grab. If we're all the Board of Trustees, when it comes around, we go away, unless the voters vote us back in. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay, to answer the question directly, for this to be a wise move, I'd like to see, one, a greater commercial base that would recoup the costs of moving to home rule, and two, assurances for more representation of the people. So for part one, commercial base, I keep hearing we can tax hotels and marijuana stores, of which we have neither right now. To tax them also, you would have your own tax department. So that's more headcount, more people, more recurring costs, a bigger expense. You have to put them somewhere. And we don't have the commercial base right now to pay for all of that. So that's a gigantic cost, and I don't know who's paying for it. Certainly not current people or current businesses. We cannot afford that. Number two, assurances for more representation. The charter, yes, it can be written by citizens, but it can be written to give more power to the mayor or more power to the town administrator. And those two things would be absolutely awful for this town, in my opinion. So I'd like to see maybe some ward creation, some assurances that all sides will be represented and that more power would be for the people. And that would be a wise decision.
So I think first and foremost, there's a misconception that just because you have X number of people, you have to be a home rule government. I believe that if you have balanced growth and you can tax the things that Mr. Haverkade said, then yes, it absolutely makes sense. You can actually get the benefits of being home rule. But as it stands today, we do not have those things that we need to go tax. Collecting and levying taxes is one of the main differences between a home rule charter and what we're currently on today. One of the voters that I was communicating with sent me the Lakewood charter for their home rule government. And as I read through it, I thought, this looks very familiar. This essentially is what we have today with a couple of addendums. The cost of going to home rule was nowhere to be found on any of the home rule surveys that were sent up by the town, and I think that it's really important that we acknowledge that it costs money. It takes time. We need to increase the size of our government. We need to have places to put them. You're talking about spending millions of dollars forever in perpetuity to do something that doesn't really give you any benefit right now. In the future, when we have those things, absolutely, let's do home rule. I'm not opposed to it then, but for now, I am.
One of the biggest challenges that we run into in a leadership position is staying focused on purpose and getting rid of all of the noise. Home rule there's a democratic process, it's a policy. We can bring a policy to the table and we can debate the pros and cons of a policy, but what was the problem that we are trying to resolve? I feel like right here we have an example of a solution that's looking for a problem. I have not yet heard a reason that we need to go to home rule, but we're looking at a policy that's potentially going to cost our taxpayers a lot of money and is going to increase the size of government, which then we've already heard the building is already pressing people to the wall, so we need more buildings. It could be potentially very expensive for our taxpayers, but I don't see it as a solution to an actual problem. It's just a policy.